Hey guys, I'm Tyler with Real Life School Podcast, and today we are going to be talking about education. We're going to be talking about public school system. We're going to be talking about micro schools, and you guys know that I talk about money, real estate, and life, but the life aspect is so important, and that's why I brought on Dezirea with Discover You Academy. She runs a micro school here in Chandler, Arizona, and she's an awesome human being. I've had the time and pleasure to come on down and kind of hang out for a little bit. And what she's doing and what she's done, there are so many other parents that want to follow in her footsteps. So what better way than to bring you on the podcast?
Thank you for having me.
Laugh a little bit, joke a little bit. But more importantly, talk about, one, being a parent. Two, wanting the best for our kids. And three, providing options for that, right? There's no secret about the public school system. It has some unique challenges that a lot of other parents are facing today, right? And the options with that are, for a lot of us that had no idea what a micro school was, is homeschool, right? Immediately like, oh, no public school, it's going to be homeschool. But micro schools, right?
Right.
I never heard of it until you. And this is incredible. So you're kind of like paving the way, for at least for me and my family. So I want to give you a few minutes and talk about your story. So like, how many kids do you have? Why did you start a micro school? And what is it? What's the difference between a micro school?
What's a micro school?
Yeah, what is it?
So first of all, thank you for having me.
Yes.
And a micro school is just a small learning environment. It's almost exactly what it sounds like. It's a school, but it's micro because there's anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 kids at any given time in a micro school. I've even seen some micro schools that only have 60 kids, and that's still micro.
60?
Yes.
Whoa.
And that's still micro compared to if you think about like a public school that has thousands.
That's why they call it micro. Duh.
Yes,
Got it.
so
Okay.
we're
I didn't know
micro
that. Fair. And what's the age gap? Like what's the youngest and what's the oldest?
So for me, I have third grade through this year. I had my first senior, really shout out to him.
There we go.
And so I have a group of third graders. I have a fourth grader, fifth grader, sixth grader, a couple of seventh graders, and eighth grader and a ninth grader. So we have all in that third through 12th, pretty much a good range of ages and students.
Okay. So my next question is, with the range, like how do you tailor a study lesson? How do you tailor the education to hit all the wickets? I mean, I know we didn't bring that up, but like that's got to be tough every day, or how do you do it?
So it sounds kind of crazy, but this year, well, actually, I'm going to go back to last year where I started to notice that was really hard. Like the big kids, we call it the big kids, they are doing their thing and the little kids are being loud, or the big kids are being loud and the little kids are being quiet, trying to learn or do their like individual studies. So I surveyed the parents and we did like a little meeting and just asked like, this isn't working what we're doing right now. How can we troubleshoot and make it better? So I decided that we were going to try keeping about like sixth grade and up at home for them just to work on their main studies. So their math and their language, they would be responsible for doing that at home.
Homework included.
Yeah. So it's all done at home. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they come here and we do like the STEM and the history and science and sometimes math too. It all, STEM is all those things kind of put into one.
What's STEM stand for?
Science, technology,
science, technology,
engineering, and math.
Okay.
And then they added A for art. So there's other way you put it.
It's STEM A.
STEM plus A or STEAM, they also call that. But what that looks for, like on the individual level, is each kiddo has at their level their language and their math. And then when we do science or history, we do those as a group and everybody kind of participates. I love letting the kids choose what they want to learn about.
Yeah.
And I let them also teach the lessons. So
Some buy-in, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
So they have a lot of buy-in. They come in excited. They're like, can I teach the class about how the brain works? Yeah.
Yeah.
We have all the stuff. Let me know if you need anything. So we kind of like, I'm teaching them how to kind of like set up that lesson.
Okay.
So they're set up for success. And then we have like, they teach it and then we give them the activity, and I make sure that I have those things to support them.
What about curriculum? So how do you have help? Do you have like study guides or somebody that helps you set up the lessons plan each day or each week to accommodate the kids, or does it all fall on you?
So it pretty much falls on me.
Okay.
But I do have an assistant this year, and she's been a really big help to me. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we have like an agenda that we share. We go over like a basic thing of like what we're going to do for the day. Usually it's for the younger kiddos, they're working as a group, and we do wild math. So it's like we're trying to get them outdoors more, like more hands-on.
Cool.
So it's an actual curriculum called Wild Math.
Okay.
And as they get like older, my older kids can choose either doing math on the computer or they can do math in the book.
Okay.
And I let them choose. I'm like, okay, this is what it is. Which one would you like to try?
Yeah.
And since a lot of them have already been using the math that's online, those more like self-directed ones will choose that. And then I do have a couple kids that use the good and the beautiful for their like core math subjects. And then I support them as needed. So each curriculum is designed for them to be able to be a self-directed learner.
Got it.
So it has videos, it has examples, and then if they're really struggling, then that's what I'm here for.
Got it.
So I'm not necessarily teaching the whole class. I'm not up here doing a lecture. They're in charge. They're doing what they need to do, and then I then come in to support as needed.
Cool. Are they able to be on an accelerated track? So, public school, you're in, whatever grade you're in, you follow the whole year and then you go to the next grade. Is this micro school idea able to help somebody graduate early, and do they get a GED or do they actually get a diploma?
Very good question. So I actually have, these kids are just amazing. I love working with them. I love seeing how bright and intelligent that they are. So a couple of them have come to me in the past, and they're like, can I work a grade ahead? Like, I'm feeling kind of bored.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can work a grade ahead, get in there, see how you like it. If it becomes too hard, then we can reevaluate.
Sure. But there's motivation there.
Yes.
And you provide them an ability to do that, right? In the public school, you have to like test out, or you got to get, waivers, and you got to take another class to test out. It's like, hey, listen, you know who I am. You would look at me if I was little Johnny and say, I'm excelling in this. I'm excelling in this. Hey, I want to be pushed. Can I do that? And you have the ability to be like, well, let's try it. And you can see based upon their grades, their acceleration, whether or not they're doing good or bad, and to be able to make that judgment call. You, not the school system, but you. And there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of responsibility too. But I've seen it. You have 15 kids here that like you're the person in charge of their lives, and they are incredible young kids. So they are able to accelerate. They are able to graduate early. Do they get a GED or do they get a diploma?
So they would get a diploma from me. Yeah.
Cool.
And the same goes like on the homeschool track. So a parent teaching their kid can give them a diploma, and those diplomas are recognized in Ivy League schools and community colleges, like all universities.
So back to the public school system and that topic, like only in the last 10 years, or really flagged because of the last, call it 2020 era, and everybody knows what I'm referring to, did things get amplified? Did parents start recognizing, like, holy smokes, there's a deficiency? Is that what drove you to this new life? Like, you're not only are you having an impact, but you're making a living doing it, right?
Right.
So are there other parents that are able to do this? Like how do they do it?
Yeah, so the 2020 era was the driving force behind this whole thing. And of course my kids, because kind of back to what you said when we started, everything I do is for my kids. And I actually moved to where we live because I thought this place had the best schools.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted what was best for my kids. And so did my husband. So like we made a decision, we're going to move out here and we're going to put them in the best schools. But even the schools that we thought were the best for our knowledge still let us down.
Yeah.
And so for me, my background is actually, I was homeschooled for most of my elementary, and I went back to regular school or Montessori. I went to Montessori when I was in about 6th grade.
Okay.
So I'm like, I know what I didn't like about being homeschooled.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted something different, something better. And so when I found this path, it was just like everything clicked and it made sense. And
you felt at home in it because you'd already been homeschooled. You knew what you liked, what you didn't like, and now you're taking what you liked and you're imparting it on the next generation.
Yeah.
How many people outside of a regular home with mom and dad have the ability to have a lifelong impact on another child's life? Very, very few coaches have that label, right? But some of these kids have been with you for years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they've moved through the grades with you. So your imprint, your thumbprint is going to be stamped on these kids' lives. What message for parents thinking about homeschool? Because I have kids too. And I mean, 2020 era had me and my wife talking about, well, what are we going to do? We don't agree with that. We don't agree with that. We do agree with this. But like, what is the message to parents that are either on the fence for homeschool, or how do they get into a micro school? How do they get in to see somebody like you? You know?
That's a good question, because I mean, I'm working on building something out that I can offer to parents that either they want to earn an income and they need to start a micro school, because that was my situation. My situation was I was already working. I had a job. I expected the school to do what they needed to do.
Yep.
But now I was stuck at this crossroad of like, well, I want to homeschool my kids, but I need to make an income still.
Yeah.
So the micro school kind of just crossed both of those things for me. And homeschooling is wonderful and it's very intimate. So it's just you and your kids, and you get to teach them how you want to teach them. They get to learn how they want to learn. You know, in their pajamas, on the couch, on a road trip.
Yeah.
We took a lot of road trips when we were homeschooled.
You can take it with you.
Yes, you can take it with you. It's on the road.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many, for homeschooling options, there is so much more now than there was even a couple of years ago.
Right.
Like, and there's this huge push for micro schools and homeschooling right now. And there's programs for co-ops that they can still, you know, get their socialization and
Sure. And sports,
and
right?
Sports, exactly.
That's a big thing, is that a lot of parents are like, well, if I take them out of the public school system, they're not going to be, you know, they won't have the same, you know, future or opportunity to go play college ball, et cetera, et cetera. But let me tell you something. There's plenty of intramurals. And if you're good, a scout's going to find you, period.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is my opinion for whatever it's worth. I didn't do well in a classroom setting. I learned by touching, feeling, doing, and taking your kids on adventures, excursions, field trips. That's how I learned. I mean, I didn't learn about a zebra or a elephant by a book. I went to the zoo. Why? Because when I saw that elephant, I was like, what? That thing is ginormous, right? Then it created curiosity. What happens after curiosity? The ability for me to want to retain information on that subject. Yeah. So this is kind of like the new era in education. Now we have online, you got the YouTubes, you got the Instagrams, you got a lot of homeschools, like you mentioned. Like, there was a big push in the 2020 era, but like, you still want one person that is responsible, and that one person is kind of like you, right?
Yeah.
So if you're on the fence post and you don't like it, here's another opinion. If you don't like something and you don't do anything, then you're not entitled to complain about it, right? So you didn't like something and you're like, well, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Okay. What is a day in the life of a kid going to the micro school? Like, what time do they show up? What do they do as soon as they show up? Can you just give like 2 minutes
Yeah,
on
sure.
what's a life of a micro school kid?
So they get here at 9:00, most of them. And I usually have the agenda written on the whiteboard. I'm trying to teach them, like, okay, what is my plan for the day? What do I have to get done? So it's written on the board what they need to, like, the plan for the day. Do we always do all the things? No, and that's okay, because if there's something that we didn't meet that day, then we're going to work on it tomorrow. So, and there's usually like a journal question or a journal prompt just to get them kind of thinking about, you know, maybe something they're grateful for, or, you know, other. And on the board is written, we have some kind of math activity, some kind of like 30 minutes of reading. And then on Tuesdays is like a science day. Wednesdays we have history with Justice, who is my senior.
I love it.
And the kids love it. I'm like, today's Wednesday. What's Wednesday? And they're like, oh, history with Justice. So they know Wednesdays we're going to get some history lessons. And then Thursdays we try to have people come into the class and talk to them about real life things.
Yeah.
And gosh, there's so much in between. Like, if we're working on STEM, they can work and build their 3D models so that they can eventually use the 3D printer. But our main part, like, so in the morning is what we call like our conquer mode, where they're climbing doing those hard mountains.
First thing in the morning.
Love morning. Get it done, get it over with, so that, you know, we have lunchtime. And we do take 40 minutes, sometimes 50 minutes for lunch, because they need that time to, like, connect, to really enjoy their food. They're eating, they're talking.
Yep.
I'm teaching them how to warm up their stuff if they've never used a stove or a toaster oven, because I don't have a microwave. So they're like, can you microwave this? I'm like, we can't, but we can do this instead.
Alternative. Yeah. There's other ways to heat up food.
There is other ways.
Yeah.
And so that's like our first part of the day. And then the last part of the day is usually our group activities.
Okay, cool.
So whatever thing we do, like science, history.
That's awesome.
Social studies.
Cool. This leads me into my almost my last point. Everybody likes to talk about their wins. They like to talk about how great everything is, wonderful, and this is awesome, and that's great, and I did all that. But nobody really wants to get humble and talk about, this is what really sucked. This was hard. These were the challenges. So I want you to share 1 or 2 wins. Okay. Maybe, you know, how you started, funding, anything like that. And then I want to share a couple of, hey, this really sucked. And you know what? This is just part of it, the growing pains. Okay? Yes. So hit it. Let me know what was 1 or 2 wins.
So a couple of wins. Once I decided I wanted to do this, I didn't go in thinking, oh, I need to run a micro school. I found it online. Like, I was hungry. I wanted something different. I wanted my kids to have options and to be able to learn and grow anywhere, and not just, well, if you're in this room, that's where learning happens. No, learning happens everywhere. So that was my biggest passion. And so when I found that company, Prenda, they were really great at, like, helping me get started. And I learned so much through what they offered in their programs. And for me, that was a win, because it was like, okay, what's a micro school?
What is it?
And at the time, it was still new. Like, micro schools were still very, very new. And so the win for me was, okay, we got this all started. I figured out how I could still make an income and still be home with my kids and teach them. And then
you got a grant.
What was it?
You got a grant, a win.
That's right.
Right? And you guys don't see this right now, but the learning space, I mean, she's got a 3D printer over there. I've never seen a 3D printer in person in my life. right? I mean, these kids, 10, 15 kids have full exclusive access to things like that. And you got a grant, which was the first win, first hurdle. Like when you finally got X amount of dollars to build out your space in your home, did the light bulb just go off and say, I can accomplish anything? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That feeling, right?
It really was that boost of confidence. And it was, I just call it was a miracle that happened for me. Because I was in like my first year of running a micro school. We talked about like the wins, the struggles of a micro school is you have kids in your home all day long.
So that's the challenge. If you didn't make the distinction, we won, the grant built out, but now you have a lot of children in your home.
Yes.
And this is your safe space.
Correct.
Right.
So the purpose of the grant for me was I need more space for my kids. I need more space so that this is like the learning center and this is like Miss Desiree's home.
Yes. So the barrier.
Right. And, there's always struggles. And, I love these kids. And even though sometimes they can be hard to love, and that's a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. And that was something I did not expect at all. Like, let's talk about the hard things.
Yes.
First of all, so I started with 3 kids. I had my own 2 kids and my niece. And she's still with me today. And the hardest part was my kids had to be like, my mom is my teacher. Like, what? And so that was just, that's a whole other podcast.
Yes.
But
and so stay tuned because we're going to talk about that another day.
So that was really hard. It's, right now mom is not mom. Mom is trying to help you learn how to do these hard things, right? And then so we started with 3 kids, and then the fall happened, or summertime happened, and then the fall came, and all of a sudden I had 10 kids in my living room, and I'm like,
10 kids in my house. I got to tell you, God bless you, because I don't know how I could do it. Seriously, this is your job. I get it. So that's a challenge, right?
Yes.
Now.
And everybody's like, well, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to do it. We'll figure it out. That's it. Hashtag figure it out. And so we had kids in the living room. We had kids on the floor. There was kids sitting on the kitchen table. Mm-hmm. And thankfully it was like somewhat nice outside. So we were able to do a lot of outside things, which we prefer to do.
Yep.
And so now I have 10 kids here. And now my own kids don't know how to deal with that because they're like, mom's attention is no longer on me. Mm-mm. And so we had a lot of like private struggles of like, they were acting out. And I'm like, whose kids are these? These aren't my kids.
Yeah.
So I had to come up with through a lot of help and like a mentor that I had in my life. How do I teach my kids in my home, whether it's homeschool or micro school? How do I keep them knowing that I still love them?
Yeah.
Even though, and this is kind of funny. One of my sister was telling me my nieces are like, Desiree is the most positive and she loves everybody's thing, even if it's ugly. Like she still loves, and she's so nice. And
I wish I had teachers like you, by the way.
And I was like, oh my God, that touches my heart because I want to be a good example to the kids. But my own kids seeing that had to be like, mom likes them more than she likes me,
Fight for attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with like a way where I let them know, I love you. I will always love you more than any other.
Yeah. Any other kid.
You are my child,
yes.
And I do this for you. I do this for you guys. Maybe you don't appreciate it right now.
They don't know. They didn't know.
But what's kind of funny is now we drive by their old school and they're like, oh man, they're like, oh, they like boo their old school. And I'm like,
we won't mention the names.
We won't mention the
No names. No names.
But at first they were like, we want to go back to school.
Sure.
They're like, we don't want to do this.
Natural reaction. Yeah.
Because they also had their own challenges. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, I thought this would be fun, but it's not fun. And I want to go back to regular school. And I'm like, okay, how do we deal with this? So I guess that was a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Multiple hats, right? So what I've heard you say is like when you went down this road, there was a lot of awesome things. You're being able to have this impact, but at the same time, the hardest challenge was taking your own children, putting them into your program, teaching them with other children that are equal. Because when mom takes that hat off and puts on, I am now teacher Dezirea or whatever label, the principal of the house, whatever it may be, the principal of the house, your kids are equal. There's no, you get more, you get less. You're all on the same playing field, right? And if there's deficiencies in one kid or your kid, it's hard to, take the principal hat off and put the mom hat on because you love your kids naturally. So I could definitely see that as a challenge. What I've seen since I've been here is incredible. You've had the ability to, have, like I said, that thumbprint for life on these kids' lives. And a lot of you that are on the fence post of, the public school is bad or good or whatever reason, you're thinking about homeschool or you're thinking about micro school. Dezirea with Discover You Academy will have her link in bio on my page and all that stuff. And she, before the podcast, even when I came over here the other day, like you had a heart for doing this. You were talking about all your wins on, accounts and people following and reaching out. How did you do this? Well, let me tell you, people, I'm going to be able to connect you with her. She's incredible. She's done it. You're sitting in her micro school and she hasn't closed the doors. Most people, let me tell you, they start a company and they close it within 12 to 24 months. And you've been doing this longer. So, and your kids have grown. Not only just the kids have stayed with you, but you've taken on more kids. So you guys would probably be interested in how she makes money, how to get started, grants, so on and so forth. But let me tell you something. Dezirea with Discover You Academy, all of her stuff is going to be on social media, and I expect you to ask her for questions, support, and book a call with her for 30 minutes and just see if I know you have a heart for helping people. So this is incredible, and thank you for sharing kind of the ups and downs, the hard tribulations of what you've been doing. But stay tuned for more episodes at Real Life School Podcast where we talk about money, real estate, and life, where the money is only 10%, the real estate's 10%, but really what we do with this thing, precious time, is the life aspect, and that's what we're called to do. So thank you for watching, and follow us for more. Bye.